Children, if I want to talk to your manager parents, what has been your most embarrassing experience? I was 13 when this happened. My mom had made a reservation at a hotel for a trip, but when she got there the lady said there was some error with the reservation and that my mom's payment didn't go through. So the lady offered us a double bedroom for a discount. Rather than just taking the room, thanking the lady, and leaving, my mom decided the best course of action would be to scream in the middle of a hotel lobby, "Nobody is going anywhere till I get my fucking room." She then proceeded to pester the lady, who clearly couldn't do anything about it, until eventually she called the police on my mom for public disturbance. Mortifying. Not my parent but grandparent. When I was around 10 years old, my grandmother went out and got us, my brother, and me, McDonald's. We got home and we didn't have napkins in the bags. No big deal, right? We have paper towels and napkins in the house. Also, me and my brother are pretty good with not making any messes while we eat. Nope. Grandmother got us in the car, drove back to McDonald's, demanded a manager, and screeched about how upset she was that we didn't get any napkins. I wanted to just melt into the floor and disappear. It's just napkins, nanny. Before Value Village, Savers in the States I think, changed policies. She would cut tags to get discounts since the cashiers would basically make up whatever price they thought it would be on the spot. If they highballed it, she would get a manager involved and I hated that. Lots of secondhand/thrift shops now have a rule that items without tags will not be sold, likely for the above scenario. I was with my parents on vacation and the hotel put charges on the bill by accident. My mom marched to the front desk and demanded to see the manager. There was a long line, but she cut right in front of it. The manager wasn't very helpful, probably because she was rude. So my mom went to all the other customers in line and told them that the hotel was a scam and they were ripping us off with fake charges. She made a scene. The hotel called the police and we were escorted off the premises by actual cops. I died inside. There really is an art to stuff like this and your mom obviously doesn't have it. You can be mad, just don't be rude. I remember a time we were on a Vegas trip with extended family. Cousin was having a super trashy wedding there, and my aunt and uncle booked a room in the Luxor, non-smoking. They were given their room key. It was a smoking room. My aunt was pissed, but with all her fury she spun up some charm as well and they were upgraded to one of those rooms that were less rooms and more like 3-bedroom apartment. When I was a young child on a long distance flight, my mother let me and my brother sleep on the floor. For safety reasons, the flight attendants told my mother that we were not allowed to sleep on the floor. She started to argue with the flight attendants who then turned to the pilots. The pilots threatened to turn the plane around unless we get up from the floor, but she continued to argue. The pilots announced they were about to turn around because of my mother, so all the passengers got pissed. Eventually she caved in when she had all passengers and flight crew on a Boeing 747 against her. I like that a parent got hit with the "I will turn this thing around" card. She got outmommed. My mum demanded to see a cafe's hygiene certificate when she saw an employee go from cutting cake in the kitchen to handling money at the till. Even though the real problem is going the other way. How do you know that that cake wasn't actually hollow and filled with cocaine and tuberculosis? Then it's not actually hollow, now is it? My dad, he can be such a prick if you get his order wrong. It could be fast food or a nice sit-down restaurant. He often yells at waitstaff if they undercook his steak. It has to be well done or he claims to have lost his appetite. One time we went to Burger King when I was younger and we sat down to eat. He took one bite of his burger, spit it out and immediately started bitching about it being undercooked. He cut in front of everyone in line to yell at the cashier. Then he asked who was the cook. When the cook appeared, he launched his burger, hitting the poor kid directly in the face with a lidless burger. He's now banned for life from Burger King. I worked at Best Buy. I stopped in with my mom one day because she wanted to buy me the Star Wars DVD box set for my birthday. I had a huge crush on the girl that was working the customer service counter. Well, the DVD set rang up $10 more than it was priced, and my mom deliberately didn't say anything until after the transaction so she could claim the effing $5 Michigan scan law bounty. My crush didn't know how to process it and the manager was busy, so my mom tore into her about how it was her job and how she should understand how to do things at my job to a girl I liked. My life was misery for a while afterward. My mom asked me to call her a taxi via an app. She ended up calling me multiple times complaining about how the driver didn't use the route she thought was best. She never owned a car and doesn't know how to drive. Even though the guy just used the best possible route the navigator suggested, she ended up getting out halfway and using Subway. The driver proceeded to call me in tears. Completely shocked, unsure of what he did so wrong, and apologizing. I felt like total shit. I never called her a cab again. Edit. First silver thank you. Scene. Any fast food drive-through. Worker. Ma'am, can you please drive forward a little bit while your food finishes up? Mom. No. Folds arms. I might be late but my dad once asked the guy at the Verizon wireless store to give him his own social security number because he asked for my dad's. My dad walked out afterwards with some stranger's SS number on a post-it. I was a silent bystander because I really wanted my first phone. I hope the guy didn't actually give your dad his SSN lol. Haha right. My dad tossed it anyway. I'm betting he didn't make sure to use a secure trash can. My father consistently returns food to grocery stores when he is unsatisfied with the quality. The worst is when he returns the 2-pound bricks of cheddar cheese because they went moldy before they should have. I left this in my trunk since June and it hasn't even cracked 30 Celsius outside yet. It's a little more reasonable than that. Usually it should last 2 weeks in the fridge. However, if it goes moldy by day 10 he'll use a receipt he bought that with to return it. But if it is in the 15 to 18 day mark, which he feels it should last, he will buy a new thing of cheese and return the old one using the newer receipt. My mother is a nightmare with customer service, even with the fact that her daughter works in customer service and deals with people like her on the daily. So many incidents stick out in my mind, but one that really embarrassed me was we were at Walmart. The stoker was struggling and dropped their price scanner thing on the ground. I was going to go help her gather her things she was struggling with when my mom came out like a bat out of hell and yelled, "You know you should pick that up, people could trip," and then she darted off with the cart. I was so embarrassed I just walked away in shame, and when I pointed it out to my mom the girl dropped it on accident. She said, "Well, she should be more careful." K. My dad did the "let me speak to your manager" once in a super busy restaurant when we were leaving. We were by the hostess stand, and my dad is a super loud guy. He was very vocal about how the server was the most knowledgeable and friendly server he had ever had and that the experience was incredible. I was 15 years old at the time and it was kinda embarrassing. Other than that, I've got nothing. Used to serve in a restaurant. I used to relay messages to the cook when a customer really liked something and I always got the same response: "I don't fucking care. Thank you for the gold." When I was 6 my mom took my brothers and I out to Golden Corral for dinner. She went up to the buffet, got a steak, and came back to the table. She's an avid A1 steak sauce fan and cannot, I repeat, cannot eat steak without it. She poured out the A1 onto her plate, tasted it, and was instantly horrified. She proceeded to pour out the Golden Corral steak sauce right next to the A1 and it matched perfectly. Outraged, she called over a waitress and eventually the manager, showing them her little experiment and how she exposed the great steak sauce fraud of 06. My brothers and I were scarred for the rest of our lives. I still have nightmares about it. To be fair, Golden Corral shouldn't be putting lies and trickery in the A1 bottle. My father is 50% native, which means he is PST exempt, which basically means he is exempt from a portion of tax on certain things he buys such as food and whatever. Every time we went grocery shopping, he'd say he is PST exempt and showed them his status card. This wasn't really an issue, but sometimes the grocer wouldn't know what he's talking about and didn't know how to exempt him from tax on the register. They'd get frustrated and my dad would get cross with them, and he'd then ask to speak to a higher up and walk them through the process. Some cashiers got a bit lippy and so would my dad, and it would always end with me regretting going grocery shopping with him lol. I've been working at a grocery store for over 2 years now and I still don't know how to process a tax exempt customer. I know it can be done, just don't ask me what buttons to press. Granted, I've only ever seen 2 customers needed my entire time there. My mother did this in restaurants non-stop growing up. She would demand to see the manager because my burger, which I asked for medium, had some pink in it, at a family friend's cookout, not a restaurant. I bit into a burger that had ice in it. I was about 12. I showed my dad and he silently threw it in the trash. He told me to eat some chips and coleslaw instead, but don't make a big deal out of it. As an adult I enjoy rare steaks, but I can't bring myself to order a burger rare. Guess I made a big deal out of it anyway. Edit. It was not an ice cube, more like flakes of ice from the patty being frozen. My dad really doesn't like confrontation. I don't like confrontation either, but as an adult I'm assertive enough to tell a friend if they undercooked something. One time I was in a record store with my dad. He bought a record that was 19.99 euros. He paid using a €20 bill. The clerk took the money and put it in the register and gave my dad a CD in a plastic bag. I started walking off when I noticed my dad wasn't moving. As I turn around I hear him say to the record store clerk, "You still have to give me my cent back." The clerk replies that they don't return 1 or 2 cents because they don't accept them and as such don't have them in the store. My dad replies by saying that is judicially impossible and asks for the manager. To make a long story short, one of the clerks gave my dad a cent from his own wallet. The number of cashiers my father demanded the manager fired because they were too slow, rang us up wrong, etc. including one they actually did. I'll never forget that girl taking her Home Depot apron off and walking away sobbing. To his credit, I guess, my dad seemed surprised that it actually worked, must have felt at least some level of guilt and never did it again.